I would love it if you guys could take a minute and introduce yourselves to everyone. And I've read about your backgrounds, but I would like to hear it from y'all, if you could. Do you want to go first, Crystal?
Sure. Um, my name is Christelle LaRoche. I also go by Kelsey. That's my nickname. Doesn't make any sense. Don't ask me. Ask my parents. Anyways, um, I went to film school and I fell in love with editing when I was in high school. I was in my TV program and I would shoot the football games and come back to the edit room and cut them. And I would also do little ancillary projects, fun projects like spoofs and things like that. But I knew I loved editing because I would stay in the edit bay after hours. I'd be on campus in high school until 8 p.m., 9 p.m. You couldn't get me off of Final Cut Pro 7. So I just loved the idea of splicing things together, things that were seemingly disjointed, and turning it into something that was cohesive and compelling. And that's kind of my background.
That's that's perfect because I think that a lot of kids, there's always like one kid who's more interested than everybody else in editing, and they end up editing everybody's videos in high school.
Right, exactly. And that happened for me all through college, and it still happens. Hey, Kelsey, I know that you like editing. Do you want to just do this one thing for me? And I always jump on board just because I like it so much.
That's so awesome, and I love that football was your way in because, of course, that's what high schools shoot. They shoot a lot of football
Yeah,
games, and
basketball, things like that.
yeah. And okay, Ben, do you want to give us an introduction to yourself as well?
Hello, I'm Ben. Uh, I'm in New York, so I'm in Kelsey picture, and ideally in this situation, I would like to do like a transition where we go into her picture, and then it's like wow, there. Except for my background isn't the same as hers. But yeah, I grew up in the suburbs of Chicago. I started filmmaking because I wanted to film my friends and I skateboarding, and uh, then like I did the announcements like Kelsey too for high school, and then decided to go to film school, and now I work in commercials and make documentaries as well.
Okay, so you got into editing and really shooting sort of the other way that people commonly get hooked, which is like you're the guy who films everything that your friends do.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
do you like did you always like editing your own stuff, or that came later?
No, I got into it right away too. Um, I mean, just from it was always about skateboarding. I just like wanted to make little videos of us skating, like my friends, my group of friends skateboarding, and yeah, I mean, I think uh, we needed to figure out how to we needed to figure out how to like put it together. So we all learned. Uh, I think I learned like Windows Movie Maker first, and then iMovie, and then Premiere before Premiere was cool, and then Final Cut, and then came back to Premiere. And I still don't know Avid.
And you still what now? Still don't know it?
Still don't know Avid.
Yeah, yeah, fair enough.
But I
Um,
would like to. Maybe at some point I'll learn Avid.
Crystal, do you go? So, did you say your name is Crystal or Christelle? Crystal.
It's Christelle. Yeah,
Christelle. So all this time in my head, I've been saying Crystal.
that's okay.
Christelle.
Yeah,
Okay. And did you guys meet at Chapman?
we did.
So you both went to school at Chapman,
Yes.
and I'm assuming you both worked on a project together. Is that how you
Yes.
guys met?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Before we dive into about what that project was, what are your thoughts? What would you say to someone who is considering film school now? Worth it or not worth it? And you go first, and then I'll switch to Ben.
Oh, you want me to go first?
Yeah, you go first.
Okay. Is it worth it to go to film school? I would say Looking back on my experience, it was absolutely worth it. And the reasons weren't so much because of the technical skills that I learned in terms of editing and shooting and all that, because those are things that you can learn through, classes like the ones that you're taking, online tutorials and things like that. But the reason it was worth it for me was because I got so much immersive experience and I met so many people that like Ben, that I worked with for a lot of years and that I see myself continuing to work with in the future. And so those connections and those bonds are kind of they're not worthless, what's the word? Priceless.
Priceless.
Because when you're pulling all nighters and you're trying to push through something and you don't think you can put a scene together and you're really hungry or you're really thirsty, you need a partner to kind of rally you and encourage you and motivate you. And I don't think that I could have done any of the projects that I did do on my own without the help of my peers and my classmates and my professors. So I would say that it's worth it. Yeah.
Ben, your thoughts? Film school?
Yeah, I agree with Kelsey. Uh, totally. I think, I mean, it wasn't, I think we learned probably more from each other and other classmates that we had than we did from our teachers. And it was the experience of getting to work together that was definitely the beneficial element of film school. And now I still work with so many of the people that I went to school with.
And it's not because your teachers were bad, right? It's just because you
Right.
spend more time with the students.
Yeah, no, I think we had good teachers, but I don't know. I think we were really lucky. The class of students that we were with, everyone was trying really hard to make cool movies, and I think we all pushed each other to make better stuff than that, or make the best stuff that we could at the time.
Okay. Next question for you, Ben, and then we'll do the same question for Christelle at the end. And okay, you prefer documentaries, and it's like I know so few people who went to film school and then leave preferring documentaries. So was that always your goal, or what was it that like got you hooked on docs?
I went to film school for fiction filmmaking, and quickly decided that making documentaries was more fun. So I changed, and I still stand by it. Just because like when you're making a documentary, things are always changing every second, and you kind of have to just be on your toes, making decisions, and it's it's more action packed. Whereas a narrative film is so much planning before you shoot, and then when you shoot, it's just I've found to be like a very stressful thing unless you have the resources and the 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 people who are the talented crew working with you. Um, but yeah, like documentary is just more fun. So that's why that's why I like it. It's more fun to make. It's about the process, not the destination. Because I still feel like narrative films are frequently better than documentaries, but documentaries are more fun to make.
Okay, Christelle, do you anything you want to add? Why
Yeah,
docs?
I totally agree. I think that documentaries are much more hands-on. I mean, you could pick up your phone or your camera or anything and walk outside and make a documentary right now. You don't need a script. You just need an idea or something to kind of spark your imagination, and you just kind of run with it. And then as you're shooting along the process, like Ben said, more things happen and you can become more creative through the process. And that's why I like documentaries so much. It's spontaneous, and even though the editing process can be extremely uh, long and you have to sort through a lot, and it's, you know, the same way that it's always changing through the production process, it's always going to be changing through the post production process too. So you kind of have to set your own goalposts and create your own story as you go along. I too went to film school with the intention of making scripted, fictional, narrative films. And the reason I didn't was because I didn't get into the film program, the narrative film program. And
Wow.
so when I got my acceptance letter, they said, sorry, you didn't make it into the film program, but you can come into the TV broadcast journalism program and we'll accept you. And within that, you can try, documentary film was one of the options. So I said, okay, well, I thought maybe I'd get into school and then switch my major back to narrative, but I fell in love with documentary when I got there. So I just stuck with it.
Okay, so I'm staying with you for the next question.
Okay.
Okay. I want to challenge you a little on the planning process, because while I agree with you that everyone goes out can just go out and shoot something, some of your work has been really impressively planned. And the shoot that I'm thinking of is the one where everything was shot from above. I can't remember the name of the movie right now.
Growth.
Growth, right. Okay, so that movie, which is wonderful. I watched it this morning while I was preparing. You got into a huge film festival with that movie, and there's no way you just went out and shot randomly. So tell me, what's the story with that?
Yeah. So the director of that film, his name is Mishka Kornai, and he comes from a heavily narrative background. And he kind of brought a couple of documentary filmmakers on board because he wanted to do these interviews interlaced with a very narrative, scripted style cinematography. So that film, I guess I would consider it like a hybrid type film where the shots were very planned and the shots themselves were very scripted. And the only kind of documentary element of that short would have been the interviews, which again, we asked a similar question to each one of the subjects. So you can go out and shoot your own documentary and not plan it, but there's certain times where if you have a certain vision, definitely you can execute that vision in still in like a documentary style, I guess.
Is that your preferred style, to do a little planning and have kind of a hybrid, or do you prefer really much more raw?
I like the hybrid style. I would say with Gnarly in Pink, Ben and I did plan out a few scenes, and that kind of gave us a little bit of structure. So it's like we had the structure in place, but we still had the ability to be creative and be spontaneous. So I like that because in the end, when you create the film, it does feel like it's more motivated and you did have a vision going into it.
Okay, um, Ben, where did you find the girls from Gnarly and Pink, and how did you convince them to let you shoot a documentary about them?
Um, our friend found them on Instagram and then showed us their Instagram. And from their Instagram, we saw that they had a website, thepinkhelmetposse.com, I think is their website. And we just hit them up directly. One of the girls' dads responded and said, like, hey, like, sounds cool. Why don't you come meet us at the skate park? And then we went and met them. And I think when we met them at first, they were a little, like, tentative, like, who are these people that want to make a film about us? Like, I don't know if they're so down. But I skated too, and so I got to skate with the girls and the dads and the families, really, because they have all of the girls have one. I think two of the girls have brothers that skate as well, and so
Yeah.
or maybe all of them do. But regardless, like, we skated with the families, and then they're like, oh, okay, like, you skate, you can relate to us, and then Kelsey's like really good at hanging out with kids because she has a background in working with kids. So they were pretty down with us, like, from the get go. And after that first, like, meet and greet, we just made plans, like, okay, we need to film, like, X amount of days. I think we shot a total of 7 days.
Yeah.
And it was like one trip to Camp Woodward, and then, like, individual shoots at each person's house where we would, like, spend the day following them around, and then, like, a couple skate days. So yeah, like, we just they were like super cool. It was very easy. It was a lot easier than I think it should be.
Kelsey,
Yeah.
okay, you're on the hot seat now. When the first time that you guys approached the girls, um, did you come with all the camera gear ready to shoot, or did you kind of slowly work them up to it?
Ben, we met them once without the cameras, right?
Yeah.
We went down. I think was it in Encinitas?
Hmm.
So yeah, we just kind of went down to a skate park where they already were, just hanging out in their element, just to get to know them for a day. Because bringing in all the gear and all the equipment on the first day when you're first meeting them can be pretty intimidating, especially because they're all kids and you just want to make them feel. You want to make the parents feel comfortable. You don't want to make the parents feel like you have some kind of bad intention with like where's this film gonna go and are you gonna take care of our girls when you're shooting, it's a very delicate balance. You want to make everyone feel comfortable, so we definitely had, I think, a full day. We just went down there, hung out. I think we went to Islands, we got some burgers and just had fun.
Did by the end of that day, did you know what your 7 day shooting layout was going to be? Like, we're going to go to the park one day, we're going to have a birthday party one day, we're going to.
Oh, no, we didn't know what our 7 day shooting days were going to be. We had some ideas. Ben, I think you can elaborate on this a little bit more, but I think it was like maybe 2 or 3 days in, one of the dads was saying, "Hey, Rel's birthday's coming up. Maybe you guys can come with us and hang out and come to Woodward." And so we kind of planned around that. It was all very. We knew we only had 7 days, but we didn't know exactly what we were going to do each day.
And were they 7 consecutive days?
No, it was over the course of maybe a month, I think,
Yeah, or like a couple months.
a couple months.
Oh, I got you both on screen now. Split screen. This is what I've been trying to do this whole time. Oh, this is so good. Now I don't have to click back and forth. So you can now both just answer the questions whenever you want.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, great. I'll still try to kind of point, to you guys. Um, all right. I want to back up for a second because I read, Kelsey, that you're involved in the Boys and Girls Club a lot.
Hmm.
And I
Yeah.
guess it made me feel like you probably pick the stories you pick because those are things that you're interested in your real life. And
Hmm.
so, do you and Ben just have a lot of things that overlap, like a lot of common interests? How do you guys? I don't know. How did you even decide to work on this documentary together? Because you're outside of school.
I think that Ben and I think it's the exact opposite. I think that my weaknesses are Ben's strengths and vice versa. So I don't want to say that your weaknesses are, but I think that because we have like
True.
we have very different backgrounds. Like Ben is a great skater. I can't skate. You get me on a skateboard, I'm falling within 2 seconds. I love sound. Ben loves shooting. So I think that there was just a good ebb and flow, and we were just both able to fill the gaps. So I had a good time recording sound and talking to the girls and having little conversations and doing fun things with them. And then Ben enjoyed getting out there, shooting on the skateboard, things that I could never do. So I think that both of those things hand in hand is what made the film what it was.
Okay, which of you guys spent more time editing, like hands on the keyboard?
It was
Pretty
both.
even.
Both of us, yeah.
Okay, how did you guys edit at the same time in the same place, or did you each edit your own on your own individually first?
I think we rotated a little bit. I mean, I think there was some days where I'd be like, okay, let me just like cut this and then I'll show you later. And Kelsey would take it and then go cut it and then show me and we would talk about it. And there was also days where we edited together. Um, but I think dividing it up was cool. I don't know if we divided it up by scene or like how exactly we did it, but I remember like we would each cut certain things that neither of us would think of. Like for instance, I know I did the first pass of the introductions to the girls where each person like there's the title card and they say something goofy, uh, or like a couple different goofy things. And I remember like I cut that one way and then and I thought it was like cool, and then I gave it to Kelsey, and she like jump cut between like different things, and even though it's like the same locked off shot, she like jump cut between different things, and it was awesome. Like I thought that was such a great idea that I hadn't thought about. So I think it was like a lot of like we would just try things and then pass it off, and then try other things, and then we would like go on walks and like talk about what's working and how we would make it work, and and then we'd go back and divide it up again.
What was um, your first pass structure? Did you cut everybody? What happened each day in a row? Did you cut based on interviews first? Did you make like string outs? Like what? How did you approach the whole thing?
Man, good question.
It's a very good question. I gotta find a picture of our paper edit and see where we started. I think that maybe our first pass, from what I remember, because we had so many fun shots of the girls and so many shots that were just humorous in themselves, I think our first cut was kind of just a long string out of like, look at these girls, they're skating, they're amazing, and maybe I don't want to say it was lacking structure, but I think we were relying on the cuteness and just the idea of these girls who are young, who dress like princesses and they skate. Maybe we thought that would be enough, but then as we dug deeper, we found that there was more to it than just that.
Okay, Ben.
Yeah, I think I remember we put up a paper edit on our walls. Like I had an archway at the house I was living at that went like over a doorway like this, and we just like had like Act 1 over here, and it would go to Act 3 kind of thing. And I mean, we knew from the get go that this was gonna be a very short film that was more fun than anything else. And so I remember like we're like, all right, so like we need conflict in this. How do we show conflict? And I remember like the brothers was the conflict. Like we had this one interview where they're talking about like smashing castles and like the rainbow world, and it just so happened that on the way before that we had bought that like castle pinata, and so we were able to film them like smashing the pony, or not the pony because Rels kept that one, but the castle one, and it like just worked perfectly with their little interview where the three of them are standing there. So I think that was like that was okay. We can set up conflict in this funny way with their brothers, and then we can like go back into the funny world of the girls.
Yeah. And for the record, the pinata thing was completely random. Like our art director, Rosa, she came with us and we stopped at a store and we just bought a bunch of princessy cute stuff, and then we bought decorations for the birthday party, and we bought these two pinatas, and I think Ben just put the pony on a skateboard one day and it just kind of made sense. Or the castle, like Ben said, we wouldn't have, I don't even think we had thought to have the brothers smash the castle until we had that interview. Maybe. I don't know what the sequence was, but certain things just fell into place with this film. So.
Tell me about the paper cut, because it sounds like what you guys did was have everything transcribed and then go back through, and did you actually create on paper an assembly of how you would want the piece cut?
Yeah, I mean, we did it by scene. So I remember, like, I think the way we structured it is each note card was a scene, and on that note card we would write what's the goal of the scene, what's the conflict of the scene, and like just as simple as that. So that way we would have like a basis. And I think some of them we even wrote some VO that we wanted, but I knew that I was pretty sure that I think we both decided we didn't want to have much VO. And if you see an interview, or if you hear a bite, you see the person say it, so it feels like a scene versus like, having VO play over some B-roll, which we were both trying to avoid with the film. But I remember it was interesting too because we did all three interviews with the parents, and like each set of parents, um, and we originally used all three different parents, and so there was Rel's parents, and then Sierra's mom or Sierra's dad. I don't know if we did an interview with Sierra's dad.
Yeah, at the very end we did, yeah.
Cool, cool. And then, but we ended up just liking Bella's parents the best. I think they all said the same thing in the interviews, and they were all like kind of nice, but there was something like just funny about them sitting on that couch there, and I think that was just our favorite one, and so we ended up only using that one, and we only chose uh, a couple things for them to say. So I remember, like, I think the first process we had, because we had pulled selects from every single interview, and we had like we did have the transcriptions, and we were thinking like, okay, how can we structure this? But yeah, we ended up like cutting the other two parents out.
I did notice that because when I package these up to sell, I always include everything that was used in the final piece, but in order to just save space, I try to take out things that weren't used, and I noticed that you didn't use some of the parents' interviews. Okay, so my next question. So my background, I don't actually have a lot of experience editing documentaries, but I love watching them. They're like some of my favorite movies or documentaries. But in scripted, we do a lot of scene cards. And I was surprised to hear just now that you said you guys also do scene cards for documentaries. Is that standard practice, or you had to do that for this one, just this one?
I think it's pretty crucial. Any documentary that I've worked on that has gone anywhere or that I was even able to finish was because I would put it on a wall, transcribed everything or had it transcribed. You know, like seeing something visually makes it that much easier to execute. Um, and Ben, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that it's standard for most documentaries and production companies that produce documentaries to have paper edits.
Yeah, I think so. I think everybody has their own way of organizing, and I think that's the way that we knew just from like previous experiences. Before this project, Kelsey and I did a film in Uganda together with a couple other filmmakers, and we'd kind of like done the whole process of the paper edit before, and kind of we figured out what worked for us during that process, and then kind of took like, okay, like some things were too much, and we spent too much time like talking about certain things, but we didn't spend enough time talking about others. And so for this film, we kind of just adapted the process a little bit, but still like stuck to the note card technique. I think we both still use it, but I know other people who don't and just have other ways of going about it. But I agree with Kelsey. Like for me, it's the only way to really figure out what the film is. If you can look at it all in one place, like you can see all the scenes together on the wall.
Yeah, I absolutely need it when I'm doing if I'm working on a scripted show. I just have no idea. It's very hard to keep everything in your head, you know,
Yeah.
especially like when the order changes. Um,
Right.
how do you guys survive? Being a documentarian is insanely hard, and sometimes the movies can take years to finish, and they're like your biggest successes are often, you know, in front of audiences and not always in your pocket. So like what how do you balance that?
Well, I don't want to disappoint or discourage anyone, but I've kind of shifted career paths a little bit in order to, produce more funds that will allow me to make the documentaries that I love to make. When I first graduated from college, from film school, I was working a lot with Ben and other colleagues that I graduated with, doing commercial branded content and kind of like branded documentary work. Growth would be included in that category. It was a commission project by Vizio, the TV company.
Yeah.
So I did maybe four, five, or six of those projects, and I did get paid for them, but I did find it to be a little bit less fulfilling than just doing a documentary for the love of making a documentary. Um, and I really want to protect my creativity. And so I did decide to do something else that would be a little bit more lucrative for me, but I still do work on documentaries. I just finished a short documentary for the Boys and Girls Club, a very short one. It was just for one of their fundraisers. So I still find places and applications for creating videos, but I don't do it at the moment for a living.
Anything you want to add, Ben?
I think that's cool. I respect that.
Thank you, Ben.
No, like I think that's so cool because when you work on those commercial projects, it can sometimes be very draining. It like drains your creativity. I mean, there's pros and cons. Like part of me feels that the advantage to working in commercials is you get experience working with like big teams and lots of talented people, and then you can refine your craft, and so you can like direct and produce and shoot and edit more fluidly, and it becomes more easy the more experience you get, and you get better at it.
Can you tilt your screen back a little? I'm only just seeing half of your face there. Okay, yeah, perfect, much better. Okay, go ahead. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, no worries. But so the way I live now is I'm shooting a documentary that is funded, and I shoot like probably 2 weeks out of every month, and so that like pays the bills. And then I'm also working on another film that I directed, and it's in the we're on like the fourth cut of it right now. It's a feature documentary, but that one I got funding for like just enough to make it. So like I'm not getting paid, and I'm editing it too with my other friend who I'm not paying, and like I mean I like my life right now. Like it's a nice balance. Like 2 weeks of just like being a DP, and then 2 weeks of like editing this other film that's I'm not getting paid for. But it's definitely like it's a tricky thing. It's a very tricky thing, and I think when Kelsey was doing the commercial work, I was also doing it at the same time. And those days, our connections, like we had the same network of friends that were giving us these commercial branded opportunities, and the budgets were so low that we would kill ourselves for a month and then make like a couple $1,000s that it was so stressful. But now that network has upgraded, and so now you would like I think Kelsey, if you come back to that world, you'll get paid more and work less.
Reel me in.
I mean, I'm just saying, like the more everyone's gotten better, and the like it's taken years, you know.
Yeah, I will say that I was maybe a bit scarred.
No, I don't blame you. It sucked. We and I like those days were hard. Like we had to work so hard, and we didn't get paid very much. And then it's like we have to like in learning how to work with clients is such a thing too that you don't learn in film school, and is such a like it's such a thing. Like
Let me ask you about that. And then I'll get to a question I'm sure you'll be very happy to answer. But let me ask you first the uncomfortable question, which is, so you find this great topic, right? You found the Gnarly in Pink, the Pink Helmet Posse, and you like approach them and say, we want to make this documentary about you. And by the way, we're successful filmmakers. We have a track record of success. You can see some of our other work. It's got to be the first question that they ask, which is, how much are you going to pay me? And at some point, you got to have the conversation with them like, well, this isn't really about the money, right?
Yeah.
Okay, what is that like? And has that ever stopped you guys from filming a documentary?
Ben?
Oh, okay. Okay, well, I have two things to say about that. First of all, I think the Pink Helmet Posse, they were down because at the time they weren't so famous. So when we started filming them, it was on their rise of being the three badass girls of America who skate and wear pink. and tutus and dresses. So I think the film helped them, and they were down to be a part of it because of that. Also, their website probably did significantly better after the film, and on their website they sell stuff. So it's almost like a commercial for them, which they're not afraid of. I think they're usually into. And then in terms of paying people, I think it depends. There is the rule of documentary that you're not supposed to pay your subjects.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean it's like this unwritten rule of like it just becomes a different situation if you pay your subjects. But I think now everything is changing so much as genres are blending and documentaries are becoming so much more hybrid. And like I know for growth people were paid, and I think that's awesome. Like I want to make a hybrid film and I want to pay people, and I think people should be paid. You know, it depends on like what you're trying to do. It depends on what the circumstance is. I think if you want it to be considered like documentary honest, maybe you can't pay someone. But if you're okay opening up like what a documentary is and what's okay and what's moral, then I'm totally cool paying subjects. I just saw a film. Have you guys seen Drib?
No. Mm-mm.
Well, it's this like blended documentary where everybody was paid, and it's like half fiction, half documentary, and it blew my mind. So
Very cool.
it's all good, whatever.
Here's a question I hope that you are very happy to answer. So you pick you've picked documentaries, which in and of itself is you already know it's going to be a tough road, and then you like a career path. I mean, and then you're walking down that career path, and there's absolutely no guarantee of success, even though you know that there is a guarantee that all the obstacles will be there, right? And you find that a great topic, which in and of itself is hard, and then you edit that great topic, which is also hard, and you do all that with little funding and with no promises, and then you get into Tribeca or South by Southwest. What is the feeling like to present your movie at a place like that, which is celebrating you and celebrating that hard road?
Wow. um, it was, oh my gosh, I don't know. I guess we were kind of shocked in a way, and also, I, this is a hard question to answer. I don't know. Ben?
Yeah, I think we were both like, we're too young for this.
Yeah, that was kind of our reaction. We're kind of like, we're not even. I was a junior at Chapman, or maybe a senior, and it was all unexpected. I couldn't even spell Tribeca. I mean, I knew what it was, but I just kind of went, and I was shocked, and I didn't even know how big of a deal it was until everyone told me it was a big deal. So I think that going into it without expectations was really like a special experience. It also, I think, took pressure off of us because we were just kind of just taking it as it came, and like Ben said, we kind of felt like we were really young for this, and everyone was, giving us props, and it was kind of cool. It was really encouraging and motivating, and made me feel like, wow, maybe I can be successful at this. So yeah, it was all a huge surprise, and I'm just grateful that it all happened.
It's something that not doesn't happen to everyone. I mean, and in fact happens to just very few people. It's probably an incredible feeling, you know.
Yeah.
So I worked on one movie that got into a big festival like that, but I was the assistant editor on it, so it wasn't quite the same. But I know the feeling is pretty shocking.
Yeah.
Okay. What about when you watched while you were at Tribeca and your film is playing amongst these other films? Did you feel like your film fit, or did you feel like so humbled by the other films that you kind of like wanted to hide when your film was playing?
Um, I don't want to sound like an egotistical maniac. I'm just kidding. But I think that when our film screened, Ben and I were super proud of it, and the audience was really into it. We loved hearing people laugh, and we just thought, what a cool experience to be able to screen this in places that aren't just our school. You know, to see that it actually is a film that um, had great recognition, and I think it just made us really happy. I don't think we were burying our heads in the sand at all. I think we were really proud of it and happy that it was screening. What do you think, Ben?
Yeah, same. I mean, I was kind of a punk about it. I mean, I was like, I don't know. I guess I thought we fit in. I was stoked about the film at the time. It was cool. And I mean, the film is obviously not perfect, and like a film is never perfect or never finished. You kind of just decide to stop working on it. And I think some jokes land in certain audiences and don't land in others, and like, but for what it was at the time, like it was definitely the biggest thing that I had ever worked on, and so I was I was super stoked to be there.
What about what about like when the New York Times calls? Like, how did that happen? Did you guys submit for that, or they called you?
No, Kelsey just like hit the dude up on Twitter. Well, you can tell that story.
Wait, is that what actually happened?
I mean, I don't know.
I think that they somehow reached out to us, and I remember being extremely excited, and I remember Ben saying we were sitting on campus outside of one of the edit bays, and we got the email and we were talking about it, and Ben was like, Kelsey, this is like the culmination point for all documentaries. Like, OpDocs is the thing. And so we were really like happy, and oh my gosh, it was what a feat. I don't know, it was really cool. Everything was just so unexpected. Like, everything just kind of happened all at once, and we were just really excited, and to be in our last year of college too, and to have all this happen. I mean, I know that Gnarly in Pink was the first doc from Chapman to get into Tribeca, which was really cool.
So you got,
Ever?
like, those-
Yeah, right,
Wow.
Ben?
Yeah, I guess I think
So we got like the little spread in the Chapman newsletter, and like we got a little article online. So like it was kind of a really cool way to end film school.
I bet.
we felt really cool for a little while.
Yeah, I mean that.
Guys.
Yeah.
Was there a crash period after? Did you ever think like, well, I'll never have that happen again in my life, or did you think like this is the beginning and this is going to happen 20 more times?
We both became alcoholics.
I think after it ended, that's when I realized that people just don't get into Tribeca. After people don't just get into hot docs and and so I think that for me, I had a period of like, okay, I have to remember that I'm doing this because I love doing it and not just to get into film festivals. So I had a period of like, I can't discourage myself and, be upset if, one of my works doesn't get into a film festival. But then South by Southwest happened, so that was kind of cool. But then after that, I thought, okay, again, calm, do it for the love, like, don't worry about the outcomes, and I think that that is, again, like protecting creativity, because you can get kind of an ego boost when it comes to getting into festivals and, staff picks and showing off your work, but it just all has to come back to why you're doing it and why you enjoy doing it, not just for the laurels.
Right. Hang on. Oh, there you go. Never mind.
Well said.
There you go. You kind of froze for a second there, Kelsey, but hopefully you're back. Hang on. Yeah, I see you. Okay, good. So when I watched Gnarly in Pink, this isn't even a question. This is like, I'm just telling you. One of the things, what I felt was like you watched all the interviews of the girls, and your first thought was probably, what words of theirs can we use? But then there's like not a lot, right? Like they're little 6-year-old girls. They're not that articulate necessarily. But somehow you guys really just got the essence of the kid out of their interviews. Particularly, I'm thinking of like Rels when she's like banging around the stuffed animal, and it's like you guys nailed it. It's not even a question, I guess. I guess like that had to have been like the 100th pass of the interviews, right? It must have taken there's no way that you just the first time through were just like, this is how this should be cut, right?
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, Rose was so funny. There's so many funny moments in her interview. I I think our plan was, well, we knew that. Okay, so first of all, we're like, all right, we need a way to set up. We need them to say like the basic thing, like, "Hi, my name is Rels," and blah blah blah. And if we didn't really get that from each of them, and the little bits that we did get from them of saying those basic expository information, we were both instantly like, we could easily just have them do anything, any sort of funny thing, and put a title card, and it will be way better. So I think we just like pulled those funny moments from the interviews, and like we didn't use any of the questions.
No. Because typically when
full interviews, and then we didn't use anything.
Yeah, typically that we'd ask a question, and they would kind of get shy, be like, "Hi, I'm Rouse. I'm 6 years old." It was very quiet, and then we'd just be like, "Hey, Rouse, like, what's that in your room? Like, show us what that thing does, or like, what do you think of that, or and then you kind of get them comfortable in their environment, and they end up just kind of showing you things because they want to. So like, Bella just decided to go in and get her back scratcher. That was totally just her. And so I think that in itself captured the essence of the girls more so than them saying, "Hi, I'm Rose. I'm 6 years old, and I like to skateboard." And
I'm gonna I'll wrap it up here in the next minute or two, but I have kind of two main questions left. The first one is, what have the last few years of being a documentarian, how has that changed you as a person now that you're actually living the life that doing the work that you set out to do?
Ooh, Kelsey, you go first.
me, I guess mine's a little different because I'm not. I have kind of switched career paths, so I think that going into the career of being a documentarian kind of showed me that this is something that I want to always just do as a passion, if that makes sense.
Sure.
I think you froze a little bit.
Oh, I'm frozen. Hold on.
Oh, okay.
I'll fix myself.
That's okay.
That's so funny. Okay.
But yeah, what it taught me was that it's something that I really do truly enjoy and truly do love. And when an idea strikes, or when I have an idea for a project, I want to keep it, I don't know if sacred is the word, but it still is a love and a passion of mine. And I know that maybe it doesn't seem that way to a lot of people that I have worked with and that I continue to work with, because it's what I always say is it's a dormant passion. So it's not like my love for documentary has gone away. I still love it. It's just that I'm protecting it in like this weird way, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Ben, how has being a documentarian changed you?
Oh man.
It's a tough one.
How has it changed me?
Or what has it taught you about yourself? What do you do now that was not a part of your personality before? Like a lot of people say, for example, like, now I'm very organized. I used to be scatterbrained. You know what I mean?
That's a good one, actually. That's actually... Wait, okay, can I add one thing?
Please.
Ben, you can keep thinking.
Yeah.
it definitely has taught me to be more organized with everything, because the second your files are out of order when it comes to documentary editing, you're kind of at a loss at that point. But I think the second thing that it kind of taught me, or what changed or evolved in me as a person, is everywhere I go and everyone I meet, I see a story. So it's impossible for me to see anything in a superficial way anymore. If I meet a person, I always know there's a story. If I go to a place, I always know there's a story. So I'm always kind of seeking that, and I think that just in general, it's kind of taught me to deepen my understanding just wherever I go, even if I'm not shooting a documentary, or if I'm not behind a camera. Um, it kind of transcended into everything. So yeah.
It sounds like making a documentary involves a lot of listening. So you're like more receptive to listening in life in general.
Absolutely. Yep. Mhm. Definitely.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say too. Just that everywhere you look, there's something interesting happening, which is cool. Like, I think yeah, like anywhere you look, there's something interesting going on.
Yeah. It teaches you to just be inquisitive and ask questions and always be listening too. So yeah.
Very cool, guys. All right, I think you have told me. Well, you've definitely told me a lot. You've answered all my questions. So I guess if you have any last thoughts or last words that you want to leave for these students and students in the future, or anyone watching this.
Keep dancing.
I would say, well, you're in this class because you clearly want to learn a new skill. And I hope that you like what you discover, and that if you discover that you love this craft and you want to pursue it, then just do it. It's fun. And do it because you love it.
Very cool. Anything? Any last thoughts, Ben?
Man, not as good as Kelsey's.
She's
Uh,
good. You got a high bar. You got to be honest.
I was gonna say, have fun.
Hmm.
Like, have fun with it.
For the love of the game.
Yeah, yeah. Editing is fun.
It is fun.
It is fun. Okay, thank you both very much. I'm gonna hang up now. Oh, I'm gonna stop the recording now, but we can chat for a second.